you're like, your name is Katrina, right?
Yes.
Yes. It's not like this hurricane, no.
Yes, it is.
It is like hurricane. You heard that before.
Oh, yes. Actually, I had to go on stage right after an event
Why
a few
is
years ago,
that?
right after
Why
that.
all the names of hurricanes is the females' names?
One year they're female and 1 year they're male. They alternate back and forth.
Okay. I thought they were only females. Never mind. You are not the hurricane anyway. No.
No.
You see.
Depends on who you ask. Just kidding.
Okay. So this is Katrina, and you're senior director for worldwide for Microsoft when it comes to marketing.
Yes.
But it has, merged, right? In marketing, PR, even the customer support, almost maybe the sales. All of these suddenly merge because they treat the environment, the people among them on the same way, right?
Yeah, so digital has really drawn a convergence of different functions that used to operate very independently. And so we think about them very collectively because it really comes down to content, right? You have some PR content, you have some marketing content, you have some sales content. And in the digital world, then you have a lot of ways to reach different people with that content that's meaningful and relevant to them when they need to hear it.
Yeah, but you agree that even the sales departments have to, how do you say, how to take, use all these opportunities with the new media changing landscape within their job, right?
Oh, absolutely. From a sales perspective, the digital world gives them wonderful background on accounts they're trying to sell to.
Yeah.
You can find out a lot more about how a company works and what they care about by participating with them online. Also, with the e-commerce trends going on around the world, embracing that as another sales channel is an important thing to do as well.
Because I met Mark Nelson, I think his name was. He was a social media manager on Salesforce, and I asked him when will Salesforce be converted into a network instead of a CRM system. Do you see what I mean? Because that's the way we treat and engage with each other within a network, right? And he said, well, salesmen is not, they don't want a system like that. They more like, a CRM system, kind of.
Well, I think social bleeds into CRM quite rapidly. So if you think about social media and things that you can find out about what people like and don't like online, there are additional attributes that you would typically find in a CRM system. So pulling in data and feeds from the social world and combining them with your more traditional CRM information can give you a richer profile of the customers you're trying to reach.
Okay, so you're using kind of CRM system as well in your work, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right. So you said you're working with 180,000 companies in 200 countries. What do you mean with working?
Working, well, Microsoft is a channel company, right? And the things that we bring to market, we go to market together with companies all over the world. So this is our partner ecosystem that builds innovative hardware that runs the Microsoft platform of software. So what we do is do a connection of value with them so that their hardware lights up with the magic of our software, and we enable all kinds of innovation on the hardware side that lets them build unique and interesting products to meet different customers' needs.
Okay, so you would say this is not only the starting point, this is your community, more or less. And are all these guys engaged in your brands and your products and so on?
They're all engaged, different kinds of engagement,
okay.
Depending on where they are in the world and the kind of devices that they build, they'll engage with us in different ways.
Sometimes I'm used to I used to like a philosophy to discuss in terms of company's social graph. How would it look like? Because Mark Zuckerberg is talking about a people's social graph, right? But how will a company's social graph look like? Is that the sum of all the people, or your employees, or your partners, or your stakeholders, and their social graph, which is relevant for you? Would that be the sum of that? Would that be the company's social graph? Do you think so?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a good way to look at it.
Have you visualized this graph in any kind? Of all these. It would be pretty amazing.
It is amazing. We've started to look at it in different parts of the world because you find a lot of differences in the digital space depending on where in the world you are.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a lot more interesting looking at it at a regional level than only in total. The total's fun, but to drive some interaction and action, really to do that at a regional level is where you get the really interesting connection points to make.
But if you were able to see that, then you would also see the most important people, the most influential people within that graph, right?
Yep.
And maybe you're taking care of them more than others, or do you?
Well, we like to look for people who are influential about our products and our brand.
Yes.
And we think of them as, I always say, the press is bigger than the press. And it's those kinds of folks that are bigger than the press very often because they have influence and authority and connection to communities that more traditional press may or may not have. So we like to think about them as a community and what information will they find valuable and interesting and helpful for the communities that they engage. So we like to make them look like the proverbial rock stars that they actually are from an authority perspective in those communities.
Yes. So, but when you find these people within your huge community or outside, what do you do with these people? How do you, may I say it like this? Do you know who's your maybe 500 most important people? Who are they? Do you know that?
Well, important relative to topics, right?
Yeah, relative to topic. If you choose one topic, your most 500 important people to one topic.
Right, so if you think about the trends and information we're trying to put in market at different points in time, and yes, we do actively look for people who are most influential in those categories, and then find what are they influential about relative to that topic. So seeding the information, making the connections on the things that we know will be specifically valuable to them is the approach we take.
But why do you keep these guys?
Where do we keep them?
Yeah, why do you keep them? So from the traditional PR perspective, you have a media database. You drag them into your contacts list, right? Some of you guys have Excel sheets. How do you do?
So it's a mix of different things. One that works quite well is having other social media communities that are focused really on these kinds of folks. So finding Twitter handles they can follow, other social media that they can engage on, because they know when they come there, the content's going to be meaningful for them. So you can have big communities and then sub-communities underneath for people like this who want to engage on different topics.
Okay. And how many of these 500 are journalists, do you think, these days?
It's a mix, especially in the tech world. You get a lot of press coverage, but then you get a lot of people who are as influential as press. So it's a fairly even mix, but again, depends on the product and the topic. But you never want to ignore the press because they pull a lot of weight, and they do write amazingly great things a lot of the time, and they're important for product review information and credibility in that regard.
When you're talking about press still, but what do you mean with press? Is that traditional journalists working for broadcast as well, or radio, TV, bloggers?
Oh yeah, so traditional press, right? People that write for a publication. It might be an online or an offline publication, as well as then bloggers that write sponsored blogs. Very much act like press. But then the people that aren't part of the press that act like it are other people who have substantial blog followings, very influential on different social media. They have a lot of followers, a lot of connections to people that we find interesting from an audience perspective. Okay,
last question. Something in me says you're still pretty traditional when it comes to the traditional PR. I guess you're using wires still, aren't you?
Well, we do a mix from a PR strategy perspective. We don't do as much old school, if you will, PR as we used to. We've been evolving that strategy as a company, and we have far more blogs and news feeds on the Microsoft.com site, as an example, than we used to. So the bulk of our PR information actually sits there now.
Because isn't that funny? When it comes to like conference like this, they're always sponsored by Pure Newswire, Business Wire, and old-fashioned wires like this. They're trying to be social, but they don't succeed really. But no one is talking about these guys anymore. Are you, or what do you think will happen with all these traditional wires tools?
Well, I think it depends on the size of company you work for, right? I'm fortunate that our Microsoft.com domain is, I believe, the 4th largest trafficked site in the world. So we get a lot of traffic that comes there organically, so it makes sense for us to have a lot of content there. But if you're a smaller business or have rebranded and maybe you don't have a following to that degree of coverage of the audience you want to reach, then some of these other services can be extremely valuable to help amplify your message, get it out there, and help build brand equity in the digital space. So I think they still have a place. It kind of depends on what your company's trying to do and what you have to work with.
Okay, thank you, Katrina.
Really nice to meet you. Thank
Great
you so
pleasure.
much.
Yeah.